Welcome back to Born for the Stories, where we speak the truths no one told us, so you don't have to carry this alone. Lindsay, what you've given us across these 2 episodes is something really rare.
We've done a tiny bit of occupational therapy, and mostly it's just been like I've worked on him or we've learned some tools and tricks that we can do. But again, I have that curiosity, like, is that this tension in his body, this hypospadias that, it's manifesting as this very specific thing with his penis, but like what's going on in this whole midline?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Yes, I do. Let's get into that. Like, tell our listeners, I'm like so pumped. Tell our listeners about fascia. Like, can you explain a little bit more about it? Like how it's all, what exactly it is. And then, let's talk about like why it's important and go through it. And, just like a little piggyback off of that is I know lots of pelvic floor physical therapists in our area, like network and co-manage with them a lot. And when I was going through this with one of them, she told me that she's like, you, as he gets older and you can like talk to him and teach him, like you may want to have him like work on that tissue just to make sure, you're reducing scarring and that you're bringing healthy mobility back into that scar tissue. And so I'm all for it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, I will say I don't know that much about the midline defects, but I do know about fascia. And yeah, so it's this, it's getting more popular and I guess I would say a little bit trendy to know about it. But it really is it's the fluid of our body. It is this liquid crystal. It's in between a solid and a liquid. So it's called the 4th phase of water. And so it's this gelatinous goo that I believe our osseous structures, our bones, kind of float within it. So it goes hand in hand with chiropractic, because if we do not release the fascia, it makes it really hard for the bones to stay in alignment as well. And it surrounds all your organs. It, surrounds all your bones, your muscles. I mean, my teacher, John Barnes, always said there's no such thing as a muscle, which most people would disagree with. But the whole idea is that it goes through in between every single cell of your body. So the muscles are surrounded by fascia. They are fascia, the bones even as well. Yeah, for sure. And it was ignored for a long time because with cadavers, it's a very different substance when it's in a cadaver, when it's in a dead person. So often, it was just kind of scraped away to see all the smaller structures underneath. I've seen, with my husband's a hunter, so I've seen animals that have more recently died and how they still have more of this kind of like gelatinous aspect to them compared to like meat you might buy in the grocery store. But if people want to visualize, just even with like a chicken breast or something that you buy at the grocery store, you have that kind of thin, really strong layer around different parts of it. But beyond that, you can also think of an orange and think about how there's each little slice of the orange. But then if you break that open, you can kind of see these little tiny almost looks like a cell of the orange and all the separation in between. So fascia is really just kind of like through in between our entire body. And when there are restrictions in it, it can have a very crushing pressure of up to 2,000 pounds per square inch. So for me, I absolutely think with a lot of pain that people experience, but even with something like hypospadias, I think, well, this absolutely has to do with restrictions in the fascia. Whether something happens in development and cannot actually be unwound, I'm not sure. But I have felt in the body, when I've had my hands on people's bodies, how there is this unraveling, this kind of unwinding that happens, this very subtle movement of the tissue. And there's an amazing French surgeon who's taken a microscopic camera and put it under the skin of living beings and shown what the fascia looks like. And it's kind of like a dew-filled spider web with goo all throughout it. And those little strands of the spider web will disconnect and reconnect elsewhere, or they'll kind of slide and glide along each other. And so it's super dynamic. And I feel that when I work with people. And when it gets restricted, like through surgery or those sorts of things, it can really tug on other places in the body as well. So I definitely think that with any surgical scar, we want to work with that area. And if we have pain elsewhere in the body, it could be coming from that place. So I think it's important to work with the scars themselves.
Yeah.
And just more generally, I mean, working with the pelvis in general,
Yeah.
but really like the whole body, I think is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I see that in my patients too. Like I'm like, you guys need to go do some fascial work. Like it's just so like intertwined and connected and it's, I mean, even just from like a trauma perspective, from like an impact, an injury, a surgery, like it gets impacted and damaged. And so it's like, how do we bring better mobility and life to it? So then overall you can heal and feel better.
Yeah, and that's the
Mhm.
thing too, is that it can be more of like emotional
Yes.
trauma,
Yeah.
or just when we suppress the energy that wants to move through us, which is emotion. I feel like it can create these more solid dams or blocks, and that solidity is what I feel in bodies that I work with. And what happens is when we put pressure into the system, something happens called piezoelectricity, pressure electricity, and it actually creates a change in the phase. So it moves from this more solid back to this more liquid. And that's when people have more range of motion, more fluidity in their body. They just kind of feel more fluid. And so, yeah, I'm super curious about all of it and how it
Hmm.
relates with these diagnoses. But really, for anyone that has done any sort of surgery, the simplest thing you can do is just let your fingers either sink into that scar, or you can pull on the scar tissue. Um, and the time piece is really important. So it's like this gentle, sustained pressure. We never want to force through the tissue. But if you imagine your fingers just kind of sinking into a stick of butter, and just through there, the gentle touch and connection just kind of melting through that stick of butter. That's what I would say you can do with, let's say, like a cesarean scar or
Yeah.
an abdominal scar, something like that. On a penis, I'm not exactly sure. I would say generally that what I described before, that pulling the whole penis, it's just these parts of our body that we can pull on. It's actually an amazing way to reach into the body and reach into the fascial system. And so if it were up to me, I would, and if it were somehow like an easy thing to do, I would try to teach every boy who
Hmm.
had a hypospadias
Yeah.
diagnosis how to work with their penis. And I mean, really, for any men in general, it doesn't matter whether you have hypospadias or not. This is a way to reach into your pelvic bowl and allow some release. And so it's that pulling kind of feeling for the direction that feels most restricted, and then just hanging out there with that pulling away from your body for 3 to 5 minutes at a minimum. And I do think it could be really powerful and helpful for boys and really all men as
Yeah.
well. I sometimes I just wish I had a penis so that I could feel what it feels like
Right.
to do this.
Right.
and
Yeah.
I and it's a little bit strange with my son now that he's older to be able to, I don't want it to be uncomfortable for him or bizarre, or like have him suddenly realize like this is really inappropriate. I mean,
Hmm.
that's the whole thing, right? It's like I think it's important that we work with all these parts of our body.
Yeah.
And so I know that there's nothing wrong with it, but it's, of course, a taboo thing. Like, yeah, my mom pulls my penis. Like, that sounds very
Yeah.
bizarre. Like, I don't know if that's appropriate.
Yeah.
And yet, it's a part of his body that needs work. And
Yeah.
so I'm hopeful that I can really get him into the habit of doing some of this work on his own body.
Yeah. And what a blessing to have you too, because even if even if he's not comfortable with it now, maybe as a teenager he is, because he understands and he knows the work that you do and he knows that you're there to
Yes.
help him, right? Like it wasn't super comfortable for me to go to like a pelvic physical floor therapist like for the first time, and like those are also becoming more common and more popular, and
Yeah.
they do fantastic work, so there's all kinds of great work that we can do on like our different organs and areas of the body that a lot of people don't even talk about because it's uncomfortable. It's like uncomfortable areas, uncomfortable
For
anatomy.
sure.
But like
Yeah.
these kiddos and these even adults that have hypospadias, I mean, this was why it was so hard for me to find information when we were going through this early on because no one wanted to talk about it. And the ones that were like, you would just be shocked on the information and the things that I saw and heard. And I, like, as a mom, it just wasn't a good information to consume. So that's why these
Yeah.
conversations are so important because it is a part of our body. Like, it's normal, it's a part of our body. Like, how do we support it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And it's so common. So we need to
Yes.
support these boys and
Yeah.
men. We
Yep.
just need to have it not be so taboo. So that was when I was thinking about coming on here, I asked my husband actually, I was like, what do you think of this? Like, I don't want to, make it uncomfortable for my son with just the record of information that's now out in the internet. And he was like, I think it's really important for this conversation to be had. And I
Yeah.
think, I think our son would understand that. And so my husband also thought it was a good idea. And yeah, hopefully my son would agree as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious though what you think about the midline and just I don't know. I feel like after I kind of decided not after we decided not to go the route of surgery, I just kind of stopped researching it. And
Sure.
but I'm realizing I would like to know more about it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have any more babies, but it
Yeah.
feels important.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, from my understanding, like the training that I have, like when that tissue's developing in utero, like obviously it's like super early on, it's like the first couple of weeks and it follows like that fascial pathway. It's like, even though it's your mouth, it's that tissue connects like mouth, like
Yeah.
spinal cord down to like, obviously, like I think about a fetus, I think about their mouth and all the way down to like
Yeah.
their tailbone area and all that tissue's developing and growing all at the same time. Why it doesn't grow completely the right way, that I mean, that's all speculation, right? Like we all could have
Yeah.
a million ideas and opinions, but I don't know if we'll ever fully find the answer to that. But no matter what, like because of that, like it's all at the same time. So that's why we're
Yeah.
seeing multiple midline defects at the same time. That's also why, and how I try to explain to parents when they bring their babies in and they're bringing them in for oral tension, but they're like, how come they have torticollis and reflux and all this? I'm like, well, their diaphragm's compressed and their spine's compressed and all
Yeah.
that tissue developed at the same time and it cannot move. And so I
Yeah.
explained to them, it's like they're twisted like a wash rag and we're just each time we're like slowly unwinding and we're loosening it
Yes.
up and we're changing that tissue and we're changing that pattern so you can over time get the result. And of course, if you think about like, oh, if we're just keeping it simplistic and talking about like oral ties, tongue tie, lip tie, cheek tie, and you do a revision, there's a lot of pediatric dentists now that are promoting and saying you should get pre and post body work done
Yes.
to allow for better revision results. But if you do choose not to revise, obviously that's all okay too, but we can still make great changes just like you've experienced. It just may take
Yeah.
longer because that tissue takes time to change. It's been
Yeah.
developed that way since since that first trimester and
Hmm.
that baby.
Yeah, and you make a good point too of just like I don't think people have to necessarily work with their son's penis or that the boy has to work on his own penis, but working even in the mouth,
Yeah.
doing any of this fascial release in the
Yeah.
whole body is going to affect the whole system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it is interesting to think about, I know you mentioned just kind of the idea of trauma in the body and how we hold it. And it's interesting the work that I do, I sometimes just see that it's in like it's accessed through a place that you wouldn't even think of. So I do think keeping that broad perspective is really important because it might be that, doing a little bit of work inside the mouth or inside the jaw is actually what could make the biggest impact on both releasing trauma and also on the whole health of the pelvis and
Yeah.
any surgical scars, any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of curiosity around it.
Well, and
And it's just,
almost any pelvic PT you talk to will tell you that whatever's going on in your jaw is going to link to what's
yeah,
going on in your pelvis and your pelvic floor. And there's tons of adults that get their tongue ties released, and because it's still
yeah,
causing neck pain, back pain, headaches, and that's what the that's what the dental side is telling them, right? That's not like what
Yeah.
the chiropractic side is telling them. Like that's the dental side. So like we know, like their research shows that there are connections down that chain.
Yeah.
Being so it's like if we know that for the mouth, how come we don't think that the umbilical hernia, the hypospadias, the whatever isn't also causing issues up and down the chain?
Yeah, this is making me curious about the umbilical hernia. I'd never really thought about that,
Hmm.
but that makes sense
Yeah.
that that's also
Hmm.
one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so your son is 3?
Yeah. He's almost 4. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so far, so good.
So
I mean, so
far,
far,
yeah, so far so good. I mean, I was a little like re-traumatized when we had to go back for his suture tracks, but that was more so like, I mean, we'll just talk about it because that's what we talk about on the podcast. It looked almost like little blackheads, and so I had
mm,
contacted them, and I was like, it looked like a stitch. I'm like, there's no way a stitch is like still coming out. Like we're like 2 years post-op, and they're like, well, they're called suture tracks, and basically there's just like really small like really small pieces through the skin that had a suture and they never fully close. So like debris gets caught in
okay,
there. And
gotcha.
super, I mean, thankfully it was like super easy. They just like numb the area and then basically just take a really fine like scissor and like just almost do like a paper cut to the skin. So then it finally heals and closes
Okay.
off. So I was very thankful for that. So that's the only like hiccup that we've had. I wouldn't even really call it a hiccup, but I do want to bring it on the podcast because I think it's important. Like if a parent notices that, there was like some things that we did go through that I'm like, oh, I did not feel prepared for that, from like being sent home with like the post-op instructions. And so I think getting all that information out there is like really important. But yeah, I mean, he, like Peter said, he potty trained easier. I mean, he does all the things that other boys do that his brother does, and he's none the wiser, and he's not at a point yet that he's asked like why does he look different than his brother, but we'll be prepared when he starts to like ask about that. He was not happy when we took him to Texas because he just kept saying they put tape over the cream to help keep it there so it would numb the area,
Mm,
and the tape was the worst part. I
Yeah.
mean, because it was like
naturally.
naturally very sticky on, his around his scrotum and all that stuff. And he was not happy about that. He was like, I don't ever want to go back to the doctor and put that tape on me again. And I was like, well, I don't think we're gonna have to. Like we're gonna be all good there. Like we just had to get like a few things taken care of, and so
Well,
yeah.
and I think just what you spoke of brought up to me also the fact that probably any parents that are going through this journey need their own body work and support.
Ah,
It's like
yes. Oh my gosh,
I'm just
yes.
thinking of other traumas I've experienced with my kids. Like my son, also, one of the things that happened to him when he was a little less than 2 was he fell through a screen window about 6 feet and down into our garden. And the trauma that I hold in my body from that experience, and I'm sure the trauma that some, not all parents, just it depends how you're metabolizing it and letting it
Yeah.
move through you. But like you have a surgical experience that's really hard. We all need to release that as well, because I do believe in the fact that what we're holding in our body as parents is going to affect our kids, and that includes
Mhm.
in pregnancy and in utero, how that might be affecting the baby. But man, it's just, I mean, I guess that's one little piece of the puzzle that I'm curious about too, is that the months leading up to becoming pregnant with my son, I was dealing with cervical dysplasia, abnormal cells on my cervix, and the stress of I was trying to heal that naturally, and I did. I knew that I wanted to become pregnant with my son, and I decided to forego the LEAP procedure. And this is getting into a different
Yeah.
realm, but I wonder about the stress in my system, and
Yeah.
could that have been an aspect of it? And again, we'll never know,
I
but these
know.
are just the curiosities I have.
I
Like
know.
you were sick at around
Hmm.
in that first trimester when we think there's
Yeah,
that development going
that was
on.
the first time I got COVID, was actually like early on with him.
Wow.
And I, I'm what none the wiser, like I was obviously sick, like having the flu. And then but then you can't help but like later when they're born and you find this out, like trying to put blame on everything, which is a lot of things I do also see in the Facebook group. So I also do want to like validate all, especially the moms out there, like no one knows, like no one can definitively say like, this is what hypospadias comes from. And because of that, like, please give yourself a little bit of grace and like, do not beat yourself up too much. Like, I know you're going to, because we all have to go through that process. But like, when you get to the other side of it, just know like it wasn't X, Y, and Z. And if it was, you'll never know. So please try to bring some peace to yourself and forgive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can be so hard on ourselves and it doesn't really help.
No, it does not. It does not. So I'm definitely like, with all the work that you do, I think it is so important. Oh my gosh, I'd love to have like a fascial therapist like near us, like you, like, and just like even be able to like tag that into like the patients and stuff that I work on, because I think it's so important. So I definitely appreciate this conversation today. And I hope that when people listen to it, they like, even for themselves, think about like, oh my gosh, like, did you have a C-section? You know, how have you had these things? And like, there's things that you can do to work on that tissue. I did want to add the little caveat, just because it's like the doctor in me, that like sometimes when, especially for women, when they're working on different scars, like let's say a C-section scar, that it can be very emotional and they can have like an emotional release from that. That's totally normal, because there's just your body connects to like what happened to get to that point.
Absolutely. That's important.
Yeah. So for sure. But is there any like last words you want to leave our audience with? I mean, if there's a way to get in contact with you, if people are more interested in this fascial work, like please put it all out there. I know you have different courses, right? Like you don't have to be local to you. You have courses that they can take and learn online and lots of stuff.
Yeah, I don't have any courses specific to this, but I have infant fascia care and fascia care for kids that are simple classes. And I do have a myofascial release for pregnancy class as well.
Beautiful.
And I have a bunch of other classes as well, but those are the ones that are kind of focused more on kids and parenting. You can find me, my website is lindsaycorsell.com. I'm on Instagram at Lindsay Corsell. I would be happy to have anyone reach out if they have questions. I feel like a resurgence of commitment to kind of just exploring this in my son and helping him to support himself and like just I want to see like what comes up from him with this conversation I had with him this morning and doing some work with him. And so I'll let you know if I see any improvement or changes, not improvement, but just changes in him. I mean, I will, because he's growing all the time and changing all the time, and that's just life. But thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated talking with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm so happy that you were here, and thank you for sharing your experience and being on the other, like on the different perspective of it and feeling safe enough to come on here and explain.
Yeah. And sorry, just the one thing I would say with regard to that is I truly, even though this is my path, I truly believe that it's just so important that we, like you just said before, are just so gentle with ourselves and trust that we are making the absolute best decision we can with the information we have, and our children are going to love us and understand that. And so that feels important to say. That's it though.
Yeah. Love it. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. It was great hearing your story.
Awesome. Thank you so much too.
Yeah. Lindsay, what you've given us across these 2 episodes is something really rare. It's a full picture. The story of a parent who trusted herself when it wasn't the popular choice. And then the tools to understand why that kind of trust in our instincts, in our bodies, in our children's capacity to heal actually has a science behind it. You can find Lindsay at lindsaycorselli.com and on Instagram at lindsaycorselli. The links will be in the show notes below. Whatever brought you to this episode today, I hope you leave knowing your body is not just a bystander in this journey, and neither are you. You were born for this. If this meant something to you today, share it with one parent who needs it. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and find us on Instagram at Born for This Stories. We'll see you next week. If this episode resonated with you, we'd love for you to take one simple step. Share it with a friend, another parent, or a caregiver who might need to know they are not alone in this journey. Make sure you are subscribed so you will never miss an episode. We release new stories every Monday. And if you're looking for more connection, resources, or ways to share your own story, come join us on Instagram at Born for This Stories, or visit our website at bornforthisstories.com. Remember, whatever part of the journey you're in, the waiting room, the recovery, or the in-between, you do not have to carry it alone. We see you, we stand with you, and never forget, you were born for this.